Most people have a really hard time reaching their potential or having these extended great careers because they get so locked into their past failures and carry it with them, because that's how our subconscious works. Our subconscious is meant to protect us, and it doesn't have to protect us from great moments.
Welcome to the Let Me Save You 25 Years podcast. I am your host, Shawn D. Nelson, sometimes known as that love sack guy. Have you ever found yourself wishing your life away? Wishing a day away? Wishing a month away? Just get to the end of the school year. So busy, so chaotic. Just get to the end of this year. I'm going to have, this property sold. I'm going to finally be out of debt, maybe. Whatever it is, do you find yourself wishing it away? Don't do it. This is your life happening to you right now. You are living it. Find a way to embrace it, enjoy it, even through the tough times. I find myself wishing it away, and I'm simultaneously, accidentally wishing away my kid's childhood or wishing away my youngest years. I'll never be this young. I'll never be this fit. And I'm not even fit. What am I doing? Wishing away any piece of my life. Today, we're going to talk deeply about this topic and take it to places that I think are extremely useful, tactical, practical, helping all of us to do a better job, not squandering it. You're going to love this guest, Jim Murphy. This guy has written the book. It just went viral, seen on the sidelines of the Super Bowl. A book that was selling 2-3 copies a week is now selling hundreds and thousands a week because it is so well written, so well conceived, pulling from eternal truths, all the things that we need to achieve inner excellence. You're going to love this. Jim Murphy. We talk about how Jim's purpose is to share God's love with CEOs and athletes around the world. We talk about my purpose. We talk about, our routines, my morning routine, my morning mantra, how we're constantly in the self-protection mode. We're always walking in love or fear. And if you feel judged, when we feel judged, we judge others more often. We judge more often. It's the negative spiral that creates fear, creating more fear. You need to simplify your life and find your purpose. Identify it. Remind yourself of it and align your life to it. Being present is more powerful than being confident. Can you imagine that? And how can we get present? How can we maintain presence? How can we get into flow state and maintain that flow state? Giving real practical advice on how to do this from one of the world's foremost experts on the topic, works with leaders and athletes all around the world. You're going to love this podcast. It is a killer. Here we go. Today's guest is someone who knows a thing or two about pressure, performance, and the fleeting nature of opportunity. He's a former pro baseball player who's turned his deep understanding of elite performance into a powerful philosophy that's now helped Olympians, CEOs, pro athletes, and everyday high performers tap into something deeper that he calls inner excellence. This man understands that opportunities, especially the biggest ones, often come wrapped in discomfort, chaos, challenges, and instead of pushing those moments away, we need to be ready to lean in. He is the author of the book, Inner Excellence, Train Your Mind and Your Soul for Peak Performance, a guide that's all about mastering the inner game so you can crush it on the outside without losing yourself in the process. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the pod, the one and only Jim Murphy.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely. It's great to have a fellow Settlers of Catan fan on the pod.
Yeah, for sure.
Heck yeah. And fellow Major League Baseball player. No, wait. Only one of us is that. But
minor league player.
Come on.
I dreamed about playing in the big leagues, but
That's amazing, though. I listen. You spent years in the wilderness. You are literally like a modern day samurai, a modern day Emerson Thoreau, pursuing wisdom. We're going to get into this, but before we get into all that and the launch of your book, Inner Excellence, which I've already taken down half of, I'm so excited. I have to know, when you heard about today's Shawnism, don't wish it away. What's the first thing that came to mind from your perspective?
oh yeah. So um, Inner Excellence, the subtitle is Train Your Mind for Extraordinary Performance and the Best Possible Life. And when I think of the best possible life, I think of a life having one foot in joy and one foot in suffering.
Wow.
And it's definitely not how I would draw it up if I was the creator of the universe. I prefer the one foot in joy, one foot in joy. Um, but yeah, suffering, to share in the glory, we need to share in the suffering. And so that's what I thought of.
So, if I can be so bold, don't wish away the suffering because it's half the game. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. So I heard this amazing definition on Tyler Staton's Bridgetown podcast that addiction is anything that you repeatedly go to that prevents or stops your personal growth. And so, like I said, this is just how the universe is set up, where if you want to be physically stronger, we need to break down the muscles. That's just how it is. Um, if you want to grow and gain wisdom, you have to allow yourself to be in uncomfortable situations and put yourself in difficult situations.
I love that. Addiction is anything we turn to that inhibits our personal growth. Wow. It's funny. Speaking of, if what you say is true, right? One foot in misery or hardship, one foot in joy. I sometimes, as I get older, reflect on this other phrase that I end up quoting a lot as well. Don't uh, don't how do I put this? Be careful not to wish away your problems because you probably don't want theirs, right? Like, it's amazing how our problems, our miseries, our challenges are uniquely suited for us and bring us, the kind of growth we need, even if, of course, we would prefer to have them gone in the moment at times, right?
So, Shawn, here's one thing that I think about a lot, Shawn, is say right now some viewer is going through something really, really hard, or is just really getting frustrated with some area of their life. What I've learned, and I wouldn't say I'm great at it, but what I'm learning is that very thing that you think is terrible, like, why is this person doing this, or why is this happening or not happening? That could be directly sent from the creator of the universe to help you enhance your life. It could be the very best thing for you. It could be training for you, and likely is. And so, what I've realized is that in my life, most of the hard times, I've definitely, my reaction is, oh, this is bad. I don't like it. I just want to get out of it, however possible. And then, that's where the resistance creates frustration and negative energy, and it's hard to learn in that energy.
Okay, so then if we're not meant to wish it away, if we're not meant to try to escape it, I guess, or what are we meant to do with it? What are, how are we meant to feel about these challenges that beset us?
Well, there's the first principle of inner excellence is that everything is here to teach you and help you. It's all working for your good. Everything is here to teach you and help you. It's all working for your good. And so that's the first thing to remember whenever you're going through something tough, is that this thing that I think is the worst, it could be the very best. And then also, all of your goals and dreams, all your big plans, they may not be good for you. None of them. Like, you may think, okay, I've got these top 5 things. This is my dream. This is my life. This is what I'm going to live. and all five of them say um, they may be too low a goal, for example, or going in the wrong direction. Even though you can't see anything better, it may not be what's best for you. So knowing that is so important.
So let's build on that for a minute. I can think of things that I pursue that I can already guess are probably not good for me. Um, how then? What are we supposed to pursue then?
Personal growth, so then you can understand and see what's possible. So as we grow, so like when I call it growing in love, wisdom, and courage, like the three of the most powerful resources in the universe, then your vision's going to expand. You're going to see more possibilities. You're going to really become someone who you didn't know you could become. And then when you, as you do that, you're going to see whole new worlds open up to you.
Okay. So the bit of your book that I've already taken down, obviously, we get into pursuit of financial goals, pursuit of wealth, all those, obvious. If we're really talking self help here, obviously not the the best things to be pursuing. How do we deal with those? As people, I think you call them in your book the signs of success, or the I don't know, embodiments of success versus like success itself. So, are we meant to live the life of a miser, of a monk? Are we meant to not have those things? Like, how do we reconcile that?
So I talk about the symbols of success, is I think what you're referring to.
Yes, the
We call the
symbols of success.
palms. Palms as an acronym: possessions, achievements, looks, money, and status. Those are just the symbols. And it covers up what we really want, which is a meaningful, fulfilling life with amazing experiences and deep, enriching relationships where we're learning and growing and making a difference in the world. That's what I think most people truly, deeply want, but don't know how to get it. So they go to the symbols because that's all they know. Um, and so I work with high level athletes, or professional athletes, Olympic athletes, and executives. And I wouldn't say that pursuing making more money, or becoming CEO or world champion is not a good thing. What I'm saying is that what happens to most people is they make that their highest goal, um, the be all end all. And that's very problematic, because one, it makes it very hard to achieve something that's not in your full control. Two, when you get it, you realize that you're still empty. It's not going to change who you are. Um, and what I help people do is clarify what they really want. Why do you want to become CEO, or have more money, or that beautiful house on the ocean? What is it that you really want? Isn't it because you want to live a meaningful, fulfilling life with these amazing experiences and deep, enriching relationships? And
Mm-hmm.
so let's go for that directly, and then everything else will be added to you, everything you need.
What's amazing is as I listen to you share your point of view, so many lines are almost uh, word for word lines from scripture, right? So I'm a person of faith. You've brought up the Creator twice already on the podcast. How important is whether you want to what you want to talk about religion, whether you want to talk about God, faith, spirituality. How important is that to all of this, and what's your personal point of view on all of that?
Well, everybody worships. I talk about this in the book Inner Excellence. This is David Foster Wallace's words, that we all worship. It's even an atheist worship. So what I think he means, and what I mean, is that we all have something at the top of our list, like that we desire most, that we love most, and whatever that is, that's what's running our life. That's what we're going to worry about most. That's what we're going to dream about most. And as stable as that is, that's our God, and that's what's running our life. And so what I say is, you don't need to believe what I believe, because my job, I feel, is to help you live an extraordinary life and help you get what you really want. What I want you to do is to make your God something that's very powerful and stable and empowering. And most of my life, my God has been the pursuit of those palms, the possessions, achievements, looks, money, and status. I just, I was obsessed with being a superstar. And
Hmm.
when I got injured and lost my career in pro baseball, it was devastating. I felt like I lost everything. And so, yeah, I believe that we're destined, we're all created for glory, and far more than cover of magazines or getting a million followers. That's, to me, that's a very low level pursuit, as far as what's possible in everyone's life. What's possible is that you could live a fully engaged life, heart, mind, and body, feel fully alive, no matter what your circumstances are. And I believe that there's a God that created the universe, that created us all for glory, no matter who we are. And what I mean by glory is the brilliance and weightiness of infinite inherent worth, far more than the cover of a magazine or anything like that.
Wow. This is beautiful. Beautiful language, beautiful philosophy, the brilliance and weightiness of inherent worth. Is that right?
Infinite inherent worth, yeah.
Infinite. I
That's
have to
what
write
we're
this
created
down.
for. Yeah.
I have to write this down. Brilliance and weightiness
Yeah.
of infinite inherent worth. So once again, um, as a man of faith, scriptural, very. These are eternal principles. I agree with you. I condone it. I believe it. How does someone go about if you're not going to leverage uh, God in the literal sense as your stable and powerful uh, cornerstone? How can you set a stable and powerful cornerstone? What would you say to people who have a hard time making a religion, their religion, a belief, a deity, that powerful and stable anchor?
Yeah, and I think for an atheist or anyone that's not spiritual or describes themselves as not spiritual, I would say that they definitely have a faith. They believe in something. I mean, you have to have faith, just driving down the road, and that the car on the other side coming
Yeah.
at you is not going to hit you. There's a lot of
Yeah.
things that you're having faith in, and I want those people to live empowered lives. And when I think of, well, what's the most powerful thing? It's unconditional love, and everyone um, has either experienced it or heard about it, or has some understanding of unconditional love. It could be from your dog, but unconditional love is the most powerful force in the universe. It's our greatest desire, our greatest need, and our greatest power. Unconditional love is fearless, and I believe that's what holds the universe together and grows the grass and spins the earth and holds the stars in place.
That's fantastic. Um, wow. All right. So much we can dig in on here. Let's go back to the top. Everything is for your good. There's actually, again, I can't help but this echoes a literal uh, scripture that's unique to my religion. Um, I'm a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter Day Saints, and besides the Bible, we have other scriptures that we study and believe in, and that's such a great principle. Everything uh, shall be for your good. So, how does someone who look? We've all, if you've read my book, I've been through every kind of business up and down with Lovesac. The worst kind, full chapter 11, embarrassing, humiliating bankruptcy, start over, lose everything. This happens, a year after winning a reality TV show. So I'm a pseudo celebrity, which makes it even worse because, I'm in the spotlight on top of being humiliated and on top of losing financially and losing friends and everything that comes with that. It pales in comparison. As I listen to that come out of my mouth, as terrible as that is in my realm as an entrepreneur, as a business person, that's the worst kind of thing. But it pales in comparison with the kind of I think, personal challenges that some people are thrown in this life, abuse, neglect, really ugly kind of stuff. How can someone who really feels like they're in the darkest of moments in their life, or their particular challenges are far worse than Shawn's, you know, um, far worse than yours. Like, how do you reconcile someone who really would wish it away? Like, I just don't want this burden. How do we think about that? Because it's easy to say everything will be for your good. Like I said, don't wish for someone else's problems, because you wouldn't want them. But some people experience really terrible things.
I think it's important to say that there is evil in the world, and I'm not saying that everything is good. The interactionalist principle is everything is working for your good, and
Hmm.
so I believe that God is taking everything in my life, even the hard stuff, even the evil stuff, and He's going to transform my heart, the most important part of me, my spirit, my will, to learn and grow, especially if I don't resist it. And so yeah, I think there's evil and terrible things that have happened and happening in the world, um, but I also believe that if we were to see all of reality, we wouldn't be able to withstand the beauty. There would be too much beauty to see, because I think it's all going to get reconciled. um, but in the moment, so right now, I think for anyone that's watching that's going through something really hard, I think there's many aspects to it. One is when you resist something, you create counter resistance, and it's just like in this political environment in America, there's a lot of fear and anxiety and tension. And if you focus on what you don't want and what you're afraid of, you're going to gain more of it. And I realized myself that I was, because of everything that happened in my life the last 3 months with AJ Brown in the book. Um, I was spending a lot more time on social media, and this was really gripping my imagination and impacting my heart. And then I also realized I was reading the multiple online newspapers every morning, and that was putting all of this energy that I didn't realize was really impacting me. And so, if life is difficult right now, we need to simplify your life. We need to really be careful and have strict boundaries around what you watch and read and listen to, because you're fueling your heart and soul every day. But and creating these beliefs and creating this energy around you about who you are and what's possible in your life. So we've got to make sure this first thing is that you're putting in positive energy, and you have strict boundaries around the news, especially if you watch it. Now we got video and sound. It's not just newspaper or online. Now that's 10 times much more negative energy coming into you, because as we know in the news, if it bleeds it leads. It's they go for the negative. And so we've got to be really careful for the negative energy and who you spend time with and what you watch and read. And then we want to simplify your life, simplify it down to one clear purpose, one life purpose. And when we do an interactionalist retreat, for example, we've actually got one coming up the 24th to 28th in Tijuana, building a house with youth with a mission and an interactionalist retreat. Um, and so everyone's gonna simplify their lives down to one life purpose statement. And um, we start out by thinking, well, how do I want to feel in my life, and how do I not want to feel, and how do I want to live, and meaning how do I want to face adversity, and how do I want to what do I value most, and who do I want to, and who am I meant to become, and thinking about that and putting that into one statement. Like, for example, my purpose is to share God's love, wisdom, and courage with athletes and leaders around the world. And so if you don't have a clear life purpose, your life is going to be scattered, because you're going to see all these possible things, especially now with so much information coming at us. Oh, should I do that? Should I do this? Should I do that? And there's so much comparison. But in the end, if your purpose is involved with unconditional love as its center, then now you're starting to move into power.
I love that. Yeah. I mean, as a leader of a company, as one should these days, if you're paying attention to the Simon Sinek's of the world, right? We have purpose at the pinnacle of our strategic guide at Lovesac. We talk about it all the time. We try and wrap our conversations around it, tie our strategies back up to it, and never lose focus on that. And I've been like a broken record with this, and I'm really proud of that for the company. But at different times over different years, as we've had our big meetings and developing our own leaders, a few different times I've led them on an exercise to try to at least provoke the thinking in the direction that you're describing. Do you as an individual have a purpose, and do you know what it is? And how do you get there? How do you figure that out? And I also, I love that you just shared with us your purpose statement. That's beautiful. And obviously you're now have wrapped your whole life around it. You've wrapped your career around it. It probably brings you a lot of peace of mind as you go out in the world and both earn money and live your life in such an aligned way. And even though I know mine, I think it's good and right. I love what you said about our God is what we think about the most, I think. And maybe I'm misquoting you, but the idea, right? Like what we're focused on, what we're pursuing, what we're thinking about all the time, that is our God. And if that's true, I'm doing a poor job on a consistent basis living up to my purpose. I'm talking about me, Shawn.
Mm-hmm.
Even though I've gone through the trouble to identify it and even remind myself of it almost daily, because I have habits that I've developed to do some of this right on my own. So it's kind of cool that like roads converge, right? Like there's a lot of wisdom that you're sharing that's eternal, that is scriptural, from the eternal God, whether you choose to believe that or not. There's a lot of wisdom that you're sharing that I've uncovered through different sources as I've read other fantastic authors and thought leaders. But I will say to anyone listening that Jim's ability to articulate these things, as you've experienced on this podcast already, and make it actionable in this book, Inner Excellence, is really unique and really fulsome. And of course, a powerful and useful perspective. And I love it. I'm really excited to finish the book and apply these principles in my own life.
Me too.
Let me double click on another thing that you said. So let's go back to resistance. The metaphor I sometimes use, and I don't know if this is right. I'm just going to throw this at you and to anyone listening and see how you react. I actually use this line in my own book. Let me save you 25 years. Talking about tough times, and I don't think it's probably totally clear because I kept my book really short and I didn't expound on some things. I just kind of put some things in there. But I talk about in the worst of times, learning how to, I call it just roll with it, learning how to just roll with it. And the metaphor that I'm building on and that is palpable to me is surfing. So I'm a surfer, a bad one, but I'm a surfer. And if you've ever been rolled by a wave or two or three in a row, it's terrifying. I mean, it can hold you under. You can panic. You can feel like you're going to die. You don't even know which way is up. You can't reach the surface. And if you panic, you will try to suck in a breath too early before you're fully emerged, and you will suck in a bunch of seawater. And if you do that once or twice or three times, you're toast. And so the best tactic in those situations when you are completely out of, it's beyond your control, is to just roll with it and to relax completely and let yourself be rolled and tossed in a very calm manner, even as like chaos and violence surround you. And so I really try and remind myself to just roll with it when I'm feeling that way. How do we understand? How can we better understand this idea of not resisting? What do you mean by that?
Um, I think the universe is always trying to um, teach all of us at all times. There's always messages and teachings that God or the universe is always sending us. And I think I've missed most of them. Um, and so I'm trying to miss less. And I think the reason why I've missed most of them is because of self centeredness, which has created fear and self consciousness. What are people thinking about me? And that's where the resistance comes in is this self consciousness, self centeredness that's in this self protection mode. But I've worked with and spent 5 years full time writing and researching the book on inner excellence, and so when performers in anything perform their best, there's no self protection. There's no concern for self. There's no thoughts of self. It's completely selfless, and selfless is fearless. And so the biggest challenge that we all face is getting in our own way. We're constantly in this self protection mode.
Hmm.
And so I think one thing that people can think about is we're always walking in either love or fear, um, either a little bit of love or a lot, or a little bit of fear or a lot. It's one or the other. It's just like we're all either entitled or grateful. There's no middle ground. You're one or the other, and it's easy to know. You can ask yourself, find out right now in the next minute which one you've been or are in the last. You just ask yourself, okay, in the last 24, 48 hours, how grateful have I been for my life?
Right. Hmm.
And if you haven't seen a lot of gratitude, then you're entitled. Um, Most of my life has been entitled, and I'm not saying this as a moral issue. I'm saying that my life work has been to study peak performance, and through that study I realized that um, the reason why we want peak performance is so we can feel fully alive and have an extraordinary life. And three of the biggest obstacles we face in performance, it could be um, playing the violin or being a teacher or a CEO, pro athlete. I think of it as overanalysis, just way too many thoughts. Way too many thoughts. That's what anxiety is. Anxiety is a mind with way too many thoughts from way too many concerns. Um, and then the second one is judgmental or negative thinking, laying down a negative verdict on self, circumstances, or others. Constant. Most people, most of my life has been spent in judgment wherever I've gone. It's like, oh, why is that like that? Or this could be better. Or thinking about how I dressed or someone else is dressed or the weather or anything. And then the third one is self consciousness, comparison to others. This is where the ego really comes in
Mm-hmm.
because the ego leverages our deepest need for unconditional love and says, hey, if you get some more of those possessions, achievements, looks, money, and status, you're going to get that love that you so desperately want.
Hmm.
And so then when we're in that mode, now it's look over your shoulder, look left and right, and like, oh, what do they got? How come I don't have that in this comparison? What do they think about me? The feeling judged. And
Yeah.
so when we feel judged, we judge more often. And that's all this negative spiral that creates this self-centered fear.
It's funny if I can just build on that as someone who, look, I've had some success and I don't know, bought some cars or built a house or uh, done things or won awards. And I will say the psychology of it, just as being really honest, in the spirit of we do our best performance if we put it all out there, right? If I'm being really honest, I think that there have been times where I overtly kind of imagined people like wanting to hang out with me at my cool house or like with my cool toys or something because I had them. And what's funny is the opposite is true because, in fairness, most people live in a fair amount of ego. And in order for them to protect their own ego, the last thing people want to do is be around people that have more than them in many cases. Of course, if they're super charitable and super on point, like you're describing, then that's not the case. But that's the sick truth about that way of thinking. It's easy to think like, oh man, people are going to be reaching out to me. They're going to want to like connect with me. They're going to want to network with me. And obviously that kind of thing can happen. But I think more often, um, people are off put and not even if you're not ostentatious with it. Um, because everyone's running around trying to protect their own ego. And so it's so funny how our logic as human beings, what we think is so logical and straightforward, is is often antithetical to the actual outcomes. Not even just like a little off, but like the opposite. Often what we think will be the results, will be the actual opposite result. Have you experienced that?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Most of my life has been spent pursuing temporary, superficial goals that I thought were going to be taking me towards the best possible life. I thought the best possible life was to be making millions of dollars and having every girl want to be with me and every guy want to be me, and
Uh-huh.
that was going to be my life. And then when I got injured and my pro baseball career ended, um, it was devastating. So then I coached the high school baseball team and inner city Seattle, and we went undefeated. And I was like, oh, my destiny was to be a superstar Major League Baseball manager. That's what it was. I knew it was something. And then I go down that path, and then I end up leaving that. And that was very traumatic as well because now I've lost my identity again. And so it was this. My life has been this constant pursuit of um, fullness of life, but I didn't know it. I was just pursuing. I've always wanted to pursue the best possible life. I just wanted the best. I want to be the best and have the best. And I was willing to sacrifice to do it. And then um, what happened was God took me down a path that I wouldn't have gone down on my own. Uh, because I think anytime God wants to use anyone, uh, they need to be humbled. And so my prayer is that I don't need to be humbled, that I'm humble enough, because I don't really want to go through that washing machine again and get tossed around in the desert. And it was hard. And so, yeah.
Wow. I mean, that's a true principle. I don't want to be humbled. I want to be humble enough. There is wisdom, infinite and eternal wisdom in that thought. Um, let's go back to another thing you said. Um, if you focus on what you don't want, you get more of it. So another analogy for me, because I don't know, I live my life. I don't know. I live my life, so I learn from my own experiences, and I think most people. That's the irony of my book, right? Let me save you 25 years. I hope that people can save a chunk off their own messy journey by applying some of these things. That's why I do this podcast, right? I don't have heavy advertisers. I'm not into, I'm not trying to be an influencer. I'm trying to just be useful if I can be. I think I've learned a lot of things the hard way. And, but I found that most of the time still people need to learn from their own experiences. So I'll share again, my version of this idea that, what we think about manifests, right? So we've all at this point heard about manifestation, thought about manifestation. Let's focus on things, let's manifest them, let's make them happen.
The
And in
secret,
dirt biking, yeah, what's that?
the secret.
The secret, right? And there's a lot of truth to it, I believe. And another twist on it in dirt biking, one of my other passions in life. I'm teaching my kids to dirt bike. Especially, I love teaching my girls. I have teenage girls, and there's nothing more confidence building and ego busting simultaneously than things like dirt biking or surfing. Because the minute you have any ego, you get destroyed. I mean, you get hurt. And so it takes you down a peg, but also the overcoming of those cliffs or those drops or those, scary waves or getting rolled builds confidence on the other side. And so it's a really cool combination. Anyway, there's this tactic in dirt biking, like don't look at the rock, don't look off the cliff because you'll go where you look. And so we can spend our life dwelling on bad outcomes and accidentally manifest those bad outcomes. So don't look at the rock. Look at the path. Look at where you want your tire to go. You may have the rock in your periphery. We all know the rock is there. Do not look at it. And that takes discipline, back to self mastery, back to self control, all the things that I think you know, end with, or, lead to. How do you react to that?
I'm also a dirt bike rider myself. I don't want to brag,
Nice. All
but
right.
this is a few years ago. My friend, we're at her cabin, and she says, and I just got my motorcycle license, and she had some friends there that were going to go trail riding, and she said, "Do you want to try it?" And I was thinking, why did she say try it? Like, I've got my license. I was picturing wide logging roads, just kind of puttering
Yeah.
along and looking at
Yeah.
the scenery. I didn't know that it was like single track technical. I had no
Yeah.
idea. So I get out there and I'm like, whoa, 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 this is not what I was thinking.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I had to make a decision. Do I just go, oh, okay, you guys go on ahead. I'll catch you back at the cabin. And I was like, no, I'm going to try it. I'm going to see if I can keep up with them. But I didn't know them. And so they're not like, oh, this is our friend. We're gonna, help him learn and what. They're on their own, and like they're just like,
Oh,
keep up with us if you want, kind of
that's
thing. And
terrifying. That's terrifying.
so, yeah, and so what happened was I was afraid the whole time,
Yeah.
and I looking back on that, it was such a great experience for me because um, if I um, if I didn't have Inner Excellence tools that I used, I think either hopefully I would have said, hey, you guys go on ahead, because there's a lot of fear, because when in this trails you could crash and really get seriously hurt.
Oh, yeah.
And
That's why I love it.
yeah, it was amazing. I was exhilarated. I want to do it again.
Yeah.
And so either my ego would have said, would have tried to keep up and gotten injured, or I would have had too much fear and I said, you guys go on ahead. But what happened was I had these 3 tools that I'll share with you that I used the whole time. And I think what was powerful for me was that I was afraid pretty much the whole time. It was this kind of fear. I don't know if it ever left, but I didn't get hurt, and I was exhilarated. And so the 3 tools: one, that was singing out loud. Two was a mantra, and the mantra I used and I still use a lot to this day is, "I'm the best athlete in the world." And three is I visualized ESPN was following us with cameras, and they were just going on and on and on about this rookie cyclist or motorcycle rider keeping up with the best in the world, and it's never happened in history, and how is this happening, and you don't leave your TV or whatever. And so I just cycled through those 3 tools the whole time.
No way.
um, you
Even
know
as you're picking up your bike out of the dirt.
Yeah, and I also, one thing they didn't tell me is going uphill, like in gravel and stuff. That's great. Like that's way easier. They didn't tell me about when you're going downhill. It's way different ball game, because now, like going uphill, just let off the throttle and you'll slow down. But going downhill, that doesn't work. And so
Yeah.
that was the scariest part.
Yeah, I talk about dirt biking so much because I started doing this late in life. I started in my 40s, which is way too late to start something like that. Which is why I love having my kids do it. I've gotten way into it. I mean, I now go many times a week. I live in Southern Utah. It's out the back door. But it was so visceral for me because, just like you, I started tagging along with this group that had been doing it, since they were teenagers. And I remember, I don't know, who knows, dozens of rides, maybe 50 rides where I just wanted it to end. It's not that I wanted it to end, speaking of don't wish it away, but I wanted to make it back safely. It's like I just was trying to get back to the truck without like breaking my arm or, whatever. And now, but I reached a point of skill where, just like everything in life, I think, where then it becomes fun. It's just like skiing. Skiing sucks. Like if you're a new skier, especially as an adult, like you can wreck your knees, and it's like all this gear and the boots suck and it's cold. But if you get good, then I mean, there's almost nothing more fun, right? And I think that so many things are like that in life. Like everything we want is on the other side of something hard. And the hard is not a one-time event. Like I love that what you just shared, of course, as a fellow dirt biker. What's amazing too is if that's the extent of your dirt bike experience, it goes on forever. Like the opportunities to take it further and experience the joy, speaking of joy, right? One foot in joy, one foot in misery. That is dirt biking. That is ski. That is all the best things. I gotta believe, like I've never been an elite athlete, but we all have seen the movies, like the training montages, like people that are at the elite level, they don't just get there. None of them just get there. If you've watched the Michael Jordan movies, I mean, he was a phenom, but he was also up at dawn, and I mean, his whole life, right?
Hmm.
And so I love that. I love that. One foot in joy, one foot in misery. Did you call
Suffering,
it
suffering.
suffering?
And that's what love does. That's why one reason why it's so powerful is love has passion in it. And passion is the willingness to suffer. Passion literally means to suffer.
Passion means to suffer. The passion of Christ. We hear it used that way. So let's talk about flow state for a second. I have to go there because I think about it all the time. My son really struggles with this. He's learning tennis, he's learning dirt biking, and he's one who is either in flow state or tragically out of it. I mean, like, can fall apart. I'm talking can't even get a serve over the net. But in flow state, like he's fine. He doesn't have to think about it. And
Can
I
I
think he
offer
really,
you something about that?
please, yeah, go.
So for both you and your son, you just mentioned about how he's been in the past, correct? Like either on or off, and flow or way out. And so what I'd like to offer you is to only talk about the past that you, if you don't want it to continue, as past tense. So talking about your son, you could say, in the past, he's either been dialed in or not dialed in.
Yeah,
And when he's not been dialed in, it hasn't been as great as he'd like.
yeah,
Um, what happens to people is that um, they get they most people have a really hard time reaching their potential or having these extended great careers because they get so locked in to their past failures and carry it with them, because that's how our subconscious works. Our subconscious is meant to protect us, and it doesn't have to protect us from great moments. It only protects us from danger, what it feels is dangerous, which most of them are emotional. And so if your son had some really disappointing experience in tennis, so what's going to happen next time he gets to the court, his subconscious is going to say, okay, here's where that one disappointing thing happened, be careful. And so what happens is, people that, if you talk about it as present tense, what you don't want, like a minute ago, then it carries it with it to the future. And so the simple solution to start with is always say anything that you don't want to continue as past tense. In the past he did, or in the past I did, or I used to be.
yeah. That's powerful. That's powerful. I mean, that's the thing, man. I have this conversation with you. I I I glean these little bits of wisdom. Of course, I'm gonna read your book and then probably read it twice. You are full of tactics, uh, tricks, and tips on how to live better. You spent 5 years of your life dedicated to the craft, which I so respect. Right? You didn't just say, "Hey, I'm a sports guy. My career didn't work out. I'm going to write a book now and go on speaking circuit." Like, you really went to the ends of the earth. Literally, it sounds like you spent 2 years in the desert, right? You spent years in the woods. It sounds like you've read every book to try and really boil it down to the finest bits. And I get that from you, because when I listen to your one-liners, they're eternal truths. These are eternal truths. These are found in scripture. These are found in all the great writings. These are found in bits and pieces and all, in many good places in the world, and you've pulled them all together. Let's go back to your framework. Walk us through some of the greatest hits of Jim Murphy to leave listeners feeling like, not just have we recognized all of these opportunities that beset us, overcoming the ego and
Well, one of the things that I think will be helpful to listeners is the 4 daily goals. Um, I was sharing earlier, if someone is going through a tough time, we need to simplify your life. We need to just kind of, how can I put one foot in front of the other, and not measure my life by my current circumstances? Because the truth is, your current circumstances could be the very best thing for you. And I mean, look at my life. At like 3 months ago, my life was night and day different than it is now. And um, and not only just because I get to talk to Shawn, um, but 3 months ago, my book Inner Excellence was selling 2 or 3 copies a day, and then it sold 200,000 in several weeks.
Oh my gosh.
Um, yeah, it's just everything changed from when AJ Brown started reading the book in the playoffs, and then they win every week, and then it's national TV every week. So my life was really slow at that time. My mom was dying, and business was slow, and it was really actually an amazing, extraordinary week in so many ways, especially from the dramatic shift that happens. Because at this time, like I said, with my life kind of in a somber state, and I just written a book called The Best Possible Life: How to Live with Deep Contentment, Joy, and Confidence No Matter What. It came out this last November. And I look at this, I'm in empty downtown Dallas, and feeling kind of lonely. I look up at the skyscraper, and I see I think about the skyscraper, and I feel this question comes on, and it said, Jim, would you rather own that skyscraper outright with no mortgage for whatever hundreds of millions of dollars it's worth, or would you rather have understood and written the book The Best Possible Life? And I thought I wouldn't trade. I would keep the understanding of this spiritual life and how to live it. And so I thought, at least I got that. And then a few hours later, my life completely changed when AJ Brown is on national TV reading the book during the playoff game against the Packers. And so it was this extreme shift in my life. It wasn't like I was, even though I didn't pay off my credit cards in January, and my mortgage payment bounced, and I had a negative account in my checking in January. And even though all that happened, my life has been pretty amazing. I mean, I was in 23 countries the last 2 years. So God's really, really blessed me. But I say that because just for people to understand that your life can completely change. And I thought that during the toughest times of my life, like, okay, that's when God was training me. That one time where I almost had a mental breakdown when I was just leaving the desert after going into the desert and giving away over half my possessions. And now I realize all of my life is training. And that's what I want people that are listening or viewing, is to realize all of your life is training for you. And
Training for what? Training for what?
Yeah. And you're not going to know what it's for when you're going in the middle of it, but I do know it's going to be for your growth. And so the 4 daily goals, the first one is to give the best of what you have today. And if life is hard today, you may not have much to give. And you may only have 30% of your best today. Give that. 2 is to be present. One foot in front of the other. And today may be terrible. Maybe you didn't do a thing yesterday. You lied around the apartment all day, and the day before, and last week, and last month, and your whole life. That could be true. It doesn't mean that you're not going to live an extraordinary life going forward. And so just learning to be present, practicing that. What does it mean to be present? Working on my breathing, and maybe going to yoga, learning to pray. And then number 3 is gratitude. Gratitude is directly linked to inner peace, and inner peace is directly linked to inner strength. And all 3 of those are linked to mental toughness and beauty. And so the way to increase your gratitude is to look for the specific moments every day at the end of the day, and ideally share them with somebody, at least 3 moments of gratitude each day, specific moments, not general ideas about grateful for my family, which is great, but it's not going to train your subconscious, like looking for the smallest specific moments throughout your day.
Be specific with gratitude.
Yeah, the smaller the better the moment, because we'll want to learn to see the smallest moments. And then 4 is to focus on your routines and only what you can control. And so inner excellence is really a series of habits of thought and action throughout the day, lined up with your purpose, which is, if you want it to be really empowering, it will be around unconditional love.
Purpose around unconditional. Listen, man, I'm sitting here, for anyone not watching on YouTube, just taking notes. I'm just taking notes, and I don't always do that. I mean, I always take notes on my pods, but I feel like, man, what a blessing. We're talking to an international superstar, uh, self-help guru, spiritual mentor, whatever, however you want to categorize Jim Murphy. And we get this private tour meandering around his amazing philosophies that you'll find in his book, Inner Excellence, and his new book that I just got on the waiting list for, The Best Possible Life. I'm so excited about that. I'm just a book fiend. I just love them, and yours are very special. I'm really sorry that I didn't find it sooner. That's how good it is, and I'm only partway into it. Um, I'm really grateful. I'm really grateful for this conversation. I could go another hour with you and just pull from you more, selfishly and unselfishly, sharing with all the listeners. Um, I'll just share, I'd love, in reaction to something you said that stuck with me at the top of this conversation, we make our best art, or we do our best work when we're totally open, unfiltered, vulnerable. What did you say?
Selfless, no concerns for self.
Yeah. And anyone who's been a performer of any kind. So I used to play in bands, and dirt biking, surfing, playing in bands. You experience the flow state. You experience those moments where it just, and if you watch a superstar, not me in a cover band, but if you watch a superstar, man, they do these, video worthy things, that these clips that can live on for centuries. Freddie Mercury, right, at Farm Aid on stage doing, Deo. Like, they do these. I believe that was not even planned. Who knows? I don't know the story. But when you're in flow state, you don't care. You
Mm-hmm.
don't have selfish feelings. You don't worry about what people think. And it's the reason I don't write great music. My daughter writes great music. I'm unwilling to be so vulnerable. I'm unwilling to really give people, I think, a peek at what's inside my head, because it's so sometimes twisted, and I'm judging it, right? But I've experienced that flow state, and I would encourage anyone. Everyone knows what I'm talking about. At some level in your life, you've experienced that, and I think the more time we can put ourselves in a position to experience that, both intentionally by doing some of the things that Jim suggested, and also through hacks. Like, for me, it's dirt biking. For me, it's some of these things that get me to that place, because I can't. It's so high consequence. It is so fast and dangerous. It allows me to escape my mental. I can't be thinking of other things, or I will die. So I'm saying that a bit embarrassed, because it's a hack, right? It's an artificial way to kind of jumpstart my brain and life and physiology into flow state, because I'm not always able to quiet my mind enough to get there in a more reverent way, let's say.
Shawn, can I add something for your son about the tennis, for the
Yeah,
flow state?
go, please.
So a couple things. One is that don't be so caught up in confidence. What's more powerful than confidence is being present. I was in spring training a year ago this month, and leading a retreat with several Major League Baseball players. And one of them was a Major League All-Star. We were talking about this idea, and he said, yeah, I totally agree. Being present has been more powerful for me than being confident. And so, what's great about that is that you have so much more control over being present than confident. Confidence has so many factors involved, and present is a lot easier to access.
How do you do it?
Well, I mean, you can work on. There's many tools that you can use. For example, countdown breathing. Inhale through the nose, 10, 9, 8, 7, and then exhale 6 to 1. The ideal breath rate is 5.5 breaths a minute. You can do some research if you want on that. But for relaxation, that's about 10 to 12 breaths per minute. 10 to 12, one breath every 10 to 12 seconds. And So focus on being present, and two, be willing to fail. If you're not willing to fail, then you're going to really struggle. There's going to be tension. There's going to be fear, anxiety. If you want to get better, you have to fail a lot. And then,
Be willing to fail, but don't think about failure.
well, yeah, I mean, failure is a past future thing, and realize that failure is an important part of your growth. And then the third thing that's going to be so important, I think, for your son is um, embrace the tension. So next time, so say for example, he's playing and then he gets anxious or he makes a couple mistakes. Is
Mm-hmm.
he willing to sit in that uncomfortable feeling? Oh, I'm not in flow. I'm playing terrible. Those thoughts can come. Even Djokovic has had these thoughts. The problem is not the thoughts. The problem is the state you get into when you start to analyze and judge it and say, "Oh, this is really bad." And so, if you instead, when you make mistakes and the mind's starting to go negative, you say, "Am I willing to have?" Or even before, if you're just anxious before the match starts, "Am I willing to face my fears today? Am I willing to have any feeling?" And this obviously is not just for tennis. This is for all of us. Um, if you're willing to have any feeling and sit with the feeling, if it doesn't go away, if you have it all day, now you're going to be much more powerful.
I love it. I wish we had another hour. I'd go. I'll leave you. I'll leave us with one other hack because I can't help myself. I haven't shared this, I don't think, except arbitrarily on the pod. But I love what you said about routine, right? Embracing a routine because there are many things there. And look, I love that you brought it back to hacks, countdown breathing, listing out gratitude, these ways that we can shape our life intentionally instead of just letting it happen to us, right? And so again, I've gleaned all these weird things from all these different books and people, books I've read and people I've got to interact with, and somewhere along the way, I developed what I call a morning mantra. So besides praying, and I need to do better at, so praying for me is an opportunity to list, to do that gratitude list. First and foremost, it's that. People wake up and they do their gratitude journals or whatever. And so for me, it's praying. But I love your idea of being more specific. Besides that, another thing I do in the morning, part of my morning routine, I have this morning mantra that when I'm on my game, it should be every day, and it often is. But like anyone, I miss. But I say out loud to myself. It started with a few lines. I've added to it over the years. I've gleaned little bits of pieces that I've wanted to integrate into my personality and into my psyche. And I'll just read a few lines from it. It goes on for 30 or 40 lines. But I am Heavenly Father's son. I am not just faithful, but valiant. I will shine today. And I go on to say very tactical things. I begin every day with scriptures and prayer. I'm excited to be with my kids every moment I can and look for opportunities to be present, mentor, and teach them, and to be helpful to Tiffany, my wife. I say yes to them when they ask me to play. See, I have to say these things to myself so that I'm a hypocrite in the moment, right? Cognitive distance, forced cognitive distance. When they come up to me and like, Dad, let's go jump on the tramp. And I'm super busy. I'm answering emails. But I've said it that morning and I know I've said it that morning. So I shut the laptop and go and
Nice.
jump on the tramp. And I don't wish it away. If I could just get through this year, it's going to be a super busy year. We're launching a bunch of products. If I wish this year away, I've missed her last year of elementary.
Well, that's another thing about unconditional love. It's got strict boundaries, but also I also got this from Tyler Staton as well as it's also interruptible.
Say that again.
Unconditional love has strict boundaries. Something I talk about a lot. Like how often, like if your 5-year-old asks you to go play on the highway 100 times, it's 100 times
Okay.
no, right?
Right.
It's got very strict boundaries. Love, unconditional love does, but also it's interruptible. It's like compassion. Compassion interrupts our lives. And so
Mm-hmm.
if you want a loving life is a compassionate life, and a
I love that.
compassionate life is interruptible.
And life is just full of these contradictions. We're talking about self mastery, we're talking about discipline, and we're talking about allowing ourselves to be interrupted. And I say that's why they pay you the big bucks, right? You're the CEO of your own life. You get to make the hard decisions. There are not right and wrong, black and white decisions. Your CEOs are paid a lot of money to make hard decisions that don't have obvious outcomes. And I believe it's the same with all of us, whether we rise to that occasion or not. And that's why I commend anyone listening. Like if you've bothered to listen to this hour plus long conversation, you're trying, you're making an effort, you're growing, and what a blessing. Jim Murphy, thank you so much. Oh my gosh, this is such a good conversation. I'd love to keep it going. Please follow Jim Murphy on Instagram, as I do, at Inner Excellence, Jim Murphy, and on Twitter at Inner Excellence. And be sure to grab a copy of Jim's book, Inner Excellence. It's available wherever you get books. It's blowing off the shelves. It's going crazy. It's a renaissance. He's put in the time. He didn't give up, and the universe came back around because, that's what happens. I'm a living testimony of that. Lovesack is a living testimony of that. Jim Murphy is a living testimony of that. The audiobook is narrated in none other by this guy himself. Thank you to the Chicago Cub of Performance Coaching, the initiator of the Inner Excellence, the board gaming board member himself, Mr. Jim Murphy. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Shawn. It's such an honor to be here.
And remember, whatever road you're walking on, whether it's personal or business related, understand that value of the limited time you have to take advantage of an opportunity, make an impact. Be sure that you don't wish it away. Don't wish any of it away. It just might shape who you are. It just might save a chunk off your own 25-year journey. Thanks.
Once a year to take my friends away should not be the budget for your bike across America.
TikTok has become an aggregator for some of the dumbest human actions.
When I won that million, I was $2 million in debt, barely hanging on.